Yeah. I'm at Race Church Road. I went to Waynesboro to bring this man down to this address. And now he's trying to force his way into a house. I'm afraid to move my vehicle. Just fighting in there.
It's inside the house now?
Yeah.
You have your doors locked?
It's open. I'm in a van.
You need to make yourself safe, okay? Even if you've got to drive away from there to get away from him and close that and lock that door. Do that for me now, please.
Okay, wait a minute.
Oh, hey guys. You know what? This was a total last-minute decision. I thought that I would bring up Brian Entin. I was kind of watching him on Twitter a little bit there. And I thought, okay, well, he's tweeting. So, because you know how they can't show it till, I'm not sure. They weren't even sure if they could show it after each one or if they had to wait for all 3 times, 9, 10, and 11 to be shown before like kind of like the media dump where they can actually show it live after the fact. I think it's Court TV that has the rights to that. And then once that's all over, but they weren't sure if they could do it after each one. But anyways, hello to the few people that are in here right now. Left you details, your NB post where it states that GB News about Penny finding the dog. I'll look at that later. I actually was re-listening to that whole interview again, and again, it's just a mind meld, to be honest, Angel. Yeah, I just watched it. But anyway, let's go. Let me bring this bigger here. Can you guys see that okay? Basically, let me just go. So this is obviously with Brian Kohberger. He has 3 different times. But Brian Kohberger just recently, 5 minutes ago, so court was adjourned. Brian's trial date is set for October 2nd at 8:30 a.m. Kohberger's attorney is asking the judge to set the trial date for October. Right, she said it will be in at least 4 weeks. And, well, I mean, he was showing this. So let's just start kind of from the beginning a little bit. So he was showing this video.
Hey, I just wanted to get on here real quick because a lot of people were asking about the Kohberger arraignment and how it's going to work. I got to go back in there in a minute because we're all kind of lined up in this little entryway. The courthouse isn't open yet, but someone started a list, so I think I'm okay to be outside. But I'm going to go back in a second. But basically, the hearing is going to start at 9 a.m. local time. There's a couple hearings today. His arraignment will be at 9 a.m., where he will be read the charges and he'll have to plead guilty or not guilty, the charges based on the grand jury indictment. And then there's 2 more hearings after that related to the gag order. So we are allowed to have a camera in the courtroom. So it will be videoed, but we're not allowed to live stream it. So when the hearing is over, we'll be able to put the video out, but I will be allowed to live tweet. We clarified with the court. because last time it was a little confusing, and I didn't live tweet just because I was nervous. I didn't want to like get kicked out. But this time they said live tweeting is allowed, just no video or pictures. So I will live tweet it. So I got into Moscow yesterday, really actually pretty late. I went to the house last night. I put a video. I'm going to go back in the daylight, but it's different over there. Everything is boarded up. There's like a security hut outside. Moscow's pretty quiet right now because graduation, I think, was last weekend. So a lot of the students are gone. So it's quiet. It's much warmer than last time I was here. It's like in the 60s. I haven't seen any family. But we know that some of the victims' families are going to be here just from talking to them. So they wanted to be here for this. From what I know, Brian Kohberger's family is not going to be here. That's sort of the latest I've heard. But the arraignment, some of you asking how long it'll take. It's going to be really short. We're told like maybe 10, 15 minutes. But this is the courthouse. Courthouse is really small. And the jail is like underneath the courthouse. That's actually the entrance over there. So his cell is like kind of in the basement here. And then they just bring him right up to this little courtroom. It's a very small courthouse. Yeah, the judge will. So there's a new judge. His name is Judge John Judge. It's kind of an interesting name, Judge. But so he will take over the gag order now, and that's why it'll be kind of interesting to see the hearings today to see what he decides with the gag order. So yeah, you guys can watch the hearing on News Nation. We have someone here who's like basically just here to get the video right away. Again, we can't live stream it, so you won't see it live on News Nation, but we'll have it right when it's over. And I'll be able to live tweet it during the actual hearing. There just won't be any video. So yeah, you can't watch live in the courtroom, unfortunately. Victims' families will be here. Yep. It is still possible he'll face the death penalty. Yes, they haven't decided on that yet. And it starts at 9 a.m. local time, which is Pacific. So like LA time. This part of Idaho is on LA time, unlike Boise, which is mountain time. So that's kind of the little update. Again, I want to get in there just because I've been here since really early. I don't want to lose my spot. It's a really small courtroom, so not everybody's going to fit. But I will tweet it out and keep you guys updated. All right, talk to you later.
Okay, so that was the original thing that he had posted a couple hours ago. Thank you, Angel. Thank you so much for saying that. Let's see here. So then it said, made it into the courtroom. It's pretty small. Let's see. Sorry, just make sure you guys can hopefully see that. Kohberger is not there yet at the time. The victims' families are arriving into the courtroom. Kaylee's sister, Olivia, has her baby with her. I can count about 25 people here sitting in the family section. A lot of people I have not seen before. Many are already emotional. Family is on one side, media on the other, about 50 people total, he's saying. At the time, that was like 29 minutes ago. And of course, it's adjourned now because they're waiting for the next one to start. Totally quiet in here, waiting. All you hear is reporters typing and Olivia's baby making soft cooing noises. I don't see. That was probably Brian Kohberger. Coo, coo, I didn't do it. Coo, coo. Wah, wah. I don't see any Brian Kohberger's family here, but there is also an overflow room I can't see. Brian Kohberger just came in. Kohberger is wearing the famous orange jail jumpsuit. Seems to be wearing a bulletproof vest underneath. Judge is reading Kohberger his rights and charges. Kohberger is looking straight ahead and nodding a bit to show he understands what the judge is saying. And let's see here. Judge is now going over the inducement with Kohberger. The judge is reading each victim's name as he goes over the homicide charges of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Zaina Cornoto, and Ethan Chapin. Judge tells Kohberger the maximum penalty is life in prison or death. Kohberger says yes, that he understands the charges and penalties. Kohberger is standing silent, so the judge is entering not guilty pleas. The prosecution now has 60 days to seek the death penalty. And then it goes on. Kohberger's attorney is asking the judge to the trial for October, which I read earlier. Brian Kohberger's trial date is set for October 2nd at 8:30 a.m. And at the moment, the court is adjourned. Let's see. So I guess they're just really waiting for the next one. But I guess we could kind of go over to see here. Let me go over to where are you? Let's go over to this for a minute, see what they're saying.
Evidence and how evidence is received, and sometimes the timeline. There's so many little things that go into motion hearings when it comes to the discovery process for evidence. But again, the perfect person to ask is Peter Tragos. Just waiting for him to hop on. I wonder if he's on the golf course. Knowing Peter, maybe he might be joining us from a golf course. Knowing him, he's a good guy. So let's go over some of the questions in the meantime, as we wait for Peter to hop back on stream. Yari says, #HJB, is it possible for one person to go through 1 terabyte? Sure. Oh, yeah, 1 terabyte? And it depends. So 1 terabyte of data could mean so many different things. To your point, it could be documents. It could be pictures. It could be video. And also, too...
Could be audio.
Could be audio.
Audio is going to take up more. Absolutely. Voicemails, text messages, everything.
And I know in dealing with so much video, that compression is a huge deal. Sometimes videos get compressed for things like storage on the cloud or storage on a device. Sometimes video is uncompressed and it's much, much larger. So 51 terabytes doesn't tell us all that much. Okay, the pool feed is being queued up. Let's listen in here. This is officially now, I want to make sure that we have this right. This is now a replay. This is the pool camera footage being transmitted out to stations across the country. So they have queued it up. They are about to play it, and we're going to hear it here live on stream for the first time. But again, this is a replay from approximately 30 minutes ago. So what they're doing now is they're beginning on this first frame. They are alerting stations across the country to get ready to receive this video. This is how pool camera situations work. It's queued up. It's kind of ready to go. And then they will hit play once they get the green light. During this, what we're going to do is Walt and I and guests we will remain quiet. We will listen in. I'll try to boost up the audio as much as possible here in the stream center so we could hear as much as possible. And then afterwards, we're going to break down some of your observations, some of your questions. We'll be looking for #HeyJB, #HeyWalt in the YouTube comment section. So the video now is being queued up. They've now gone to the closed door. So what we're going to see is Idaho murder suspect Brian Kohberger enter the courtroom. We're going to see Judge read out the indictment. Let's bring up audio. and we're waiting for, again, the pool camera team. They are alerting all stations. We also have a backup feed in the event that this one goes out. But again, this is the indictment for those of you just joining us. The indictment of Brian Kohberger, the suspect, the lone suspect in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in November of last year. He is facing 4 first-degree murder charges as well as a charge of burglary as well.
The silence we're experiencing now as we wait for the video.
There it is.
There
Let's
you
listen
go.
in.
Awesome. Yeah, there we go, guys. Come on, pumpkin. Come to the court. There you are, you piece of... This is where he probably starts cooing. It's not really the baby, guys. I know, isn't it?
All rise.
Brilliant name. Okay.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Good morning, everybody.
No, he's not quite like Caden Klein, is he? No scratches on the face this time, though.
We have some people on Zoom here too, so we're gonna hide it. Okay, let's get on the record, please. Thank you. Okay, we are now on the record in State of Idaho versus Brian C. Kohberger, CR 29222803. Mr. Kohberger is in the courtroom along with his attorney, Ms. Taylor. I believe also part of the team is Dave Logston and Elisa Massa, who is participating by Zoom. The state is represented by Mr. Thompson, Lake County Prosecutor's Office, or Prosecuting Attorney. Ms. Jennings is of that office too, Lake County Prosecutor's Office. Also part of that team is Ingrid Beatty and Jeff Nye, both from the Idaho Attorney General's Office. I'm John Judge. If you don't know me, I'm the Lake County District Judge, and I'll be presiding over this case. So, Mr. Kohberger, you've already heard a lot of what I'm going to tell you at your initial appearance, but I'll repeat it to you because it's important, and I want to remind you of these issues. So I'll briefly cover your rights, the charges against you, and the maximum penalties if you are found guilty or if you plead guilty. So I'm going to start with the rights. You have a constitutional right to have an attorney represent you throughout these proceedings. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, then one is appointed at public expense. Ms. Taylor and her team have already been appointed, so that's taken care of. You have a right to a speedy and public jury trial where the state would be required to prove every element of each charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. At that trial, you would have the right to cross-examine the witnesses called against you. That means to see, hear, and question them, to call witnesses to testify for you, and if you choose to testify in your own defense. But you're not required to testify because you also have a right of silence. That right is protected under the Idaho and federal constitutions, so you can remain silent throughout these court proceedings, and that can't be held against you in any way. What you do need to remember, though, is that anything you do say, other than to your lawyers, could be used against you against you in a later court proceeding. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You also have a right to appeal any final decision of the court. In order to exercise that right, you need to file a notice of appeal within 42 days of that final decision, or that right is waived. Also, if you are not a United States citizen, any finding of guilt in this state could have adverse consequences to your legal status. Do you understand these rights?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights?
No.
All right. So let's go to the indictment. You have a copy of the indictment in front of you?
Yes.
Thank you. And you see in the heading your name there. Is that your correctly spelled complete name?
Yes, it is.
Is that the correct birth date underneath your name?
Yes.
Are those the correct last four digits of your social security number?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to read you the charges on the indictment, starting with count 1, burglary. That is a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-1401 and 1403. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. Count 2, murder in the first degree. That was a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. Count 3, murder in the first degree, a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Kayla Gonsalves, a human being, by stabbing Kayla Gonsalves, from which she died. Count 4, murder in the first degree. That's a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. Alleging that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Zaina Kernodal. Excuse me. This is hard. I'm sorry. Zaina Kernodal, a human being, by stabbing Zaina Kernodal, from which she died. Count 5, murder in the first degree. This is a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing Ethan Chapin, from which he died. This is signed on May 16, 2023, by the presiding grand jury. So now I'm going to go to the maximum penalties of each charge, starting with count 1, burglary, minimum 1 year, up to 10 years in imprisonment, fine of up to $50,000, or both fine and imprisonment, restitution for the victim's economic losses resulting from the crime. For counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, murder in the first degree, maximum penalties, life in prison, or the death penalty. Fine of up to $50,000, or both fine and life in prison or the death penalty. Restitution for the victim's economic losses resulting from the crime. Also, additional fine of up to $5,000 to be paid directly to the victim's families. If you are found guilty or plead guilty on each charge, and the maximum sentences are imposed consecutively, that means one right after the other, you could be facing 10 years in prison, followed by 4 consecutive life sentences or death penalties, fines of up to $200,000 and $20,000 to be paid directly to the families with any restitution resulting from the crimes. Okay. Mr. Kohberger, do you understand the charge in count 1?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 2, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 3, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 4, murder in the first degree?
Yes.
Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Do you understand the charge in count 5, murder in the
Yes.
first degree? Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, is Mr. Kohberger prepared to plead to these charges?
Your Honor, we will be standing silent.
Okay, because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge, counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, at this juncture, the state has 60 days to give notice of intention to seek the death penalty. And Mr. Kohberger has a constitutional and statutory right to a speedy trial. So let's start with you, Ms. Taylor, and then Mr. Thompson to discuss scheduling.
Your Honor, we'd ask the court to set this trial at the very outside of the speedy trial, right? We're not prepared to do anything but ask the court to do that today.
Okay. Have you counted out when that will be? November?
I have not counted it out, Your Honor, but I believe that would be about November 22nd is when it's run. Maybe November 20th, something in there. So I'd ask the court to set it for an October trial date.
How long do you think it will take to try the case?
My best guess is it would take at least 4 weeks, maybe 6.
So you'd like me to set this for a 6-week trial?
At this point, I would, Your Honor.
Well, and in order to do so, I will have to get rid of some of the other 3 trials I have, but this is more critical and more important. So, Mr. Thompson, what's your?
Those trial dates are workable for the state judge.
Okay, thank you. about October 2nd, starting at 8:30 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
That work? Okay, for 6 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Anything else we need to address today, Ms. Taylor?
Not with regard to the trial setting.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thompson?
Nothing to say at this time now.
All right. So with that, by the way, I do want to let everybody know, if they don't already know this, that once the grand jury issued the indictment, preliminary hearing scheduled to start on June 26th was no longer needed and was vacated. So some people are confused about that. So I thank counsel and the media and the public for your attention and respect. So we are adjourned. Thank you.
Brian Kohberger electing to stand silent, and the judge entering a plea of not guilty on the 5 charges, 4 for first-degree murder, an additional charge for burglary as well. JB Buno, WFLA senior investigator Walt Buteau here with you live in the WFLA Now Stream Center. We're really going to hone in now on your reaction, folks, your comments. We use our hashtag system here in the Stream Center. So if you use hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyJB, I think Jennifer Coffindaffer might still be hanging around. She's invited to pop back on whenever she'd like. I see her in the corner of my screen as well. But either any of the hashtags on your screen, and we can bring up your questions, your comments. Well, I want to give you the opportunity to react here first. I have a couple of things to point out as well. But let's start with you.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but he definitely answered the judge's questions. And you don't always hear that, believe it or not. You don't always hear that from defendants. There's sometimes at least a hint of shame might not be the right word, but in his case, he answered every question very directly, full voiced, spoke up, except when it came to the plea, when he remained silent, and we knew he had remained silent for the plea and that the judge had to enter the not guilty plea for him. So it sort of, I guess, maybe surprised me that he was sort of so forthcoming and spoke up so much when he was asked those other questions. What did you think?
The word that I'm going to use is very present.
Yes.
Alert.
Yeah.
And
like he was asking like he was being asked questions about, what'd you do last night? Or he was being asked.
But he made clear he was enunciating his responses.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back during over the course of us watching this, I was thinking, my goodness, he is very coherent. And I think back to some of the trials, and our audience members on WFLA Now in our comment section know what I'm talking about when we're talking about some cases like Darrell Brooks, which was all over the place, just straight chaos at every turn.
Unbelievable, really.
Talking, of course, about Alex Murdaugh, where it was, there was points where he was, just crying. He was just covered in tears as far as emotion. I think back to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, where there was smirks and twitches. And I know that we're really early on in this process, but this was as straightforward, direct, coherent, and concise of responses as you'll hear from a defendant.
I saw one of the first January 6th Bay Area defendants, one of the first Bay Area defendants from January 6th during a federal hearing where cameras aren't allowed in it, as the judge was reading the charges against him, actually, I should say, put his head on the table, just went thump like that in a federal courtroom.
Did he hurt himself?
He just was sort of like, if I was interpreting it, it was sort of, what did I do? And that, of course, was not nearly as serious as this. But yeah, this guy was definitely Very straightforward, like you said, very present. And the only reason maybe we're surprised by that is because we knew ahead of time he did not enter a plea. And I think Jennifer makes a good point. Was that about control? I'm controlling this. You're not controlling this. I'll answer your questions, but you're not controlling whether what I say for my plea. But at the end of the day, the judge controlled it.
And I look. Are you? Did you observe arrogance? Is that what you're saying? Did you see?
I would say more confidence than arrogance,
Okay,
and there's a difference.
Yeah,
just more of a. Again, I sort of expected soft spoken, maybe. As opposed.
No, he enunciated very clearly his responses.
Yes.
And it almost reminded me of some of the traffic stop videos that we had seen, where he was he appeared to be just making sure that he was very clear in what he was saying. And there's going to be body. This is a replay, by the way. This is actually the satellite coordinates for the feed itself, but they are playing it back a second time for news stations that missed it the first time. This is just.
And his attorney sort of smiled at the courtroom when she came in. He looks about the same, doesn't he, to you? Does he look the same that he did?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Does he look the same that he did? He does to me.
Oh, yeah. Kohberger.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he looks very, very similar. Here he is rising for Judge John Judge. Our comment section was lighting up about Judge, and people that have watched me before know that the very last thing I ever do is ignore people in the comment section and their observations. And as far as the pronunciation of the names, our comment section was lighting up about the. But I wrote down one note. I mean, Brian Entin did such a great job on Twitter as far as documenting what transpired that it was very easy for us to follow along. But I did document one thing here in my notes, and Judge stopped at one point and said, "Sorry, this is hard." Did you catch that?
Yeah.
He stopped as he was reading the names of the victims, and he just said,
"It is hard.
Sorry,
Absolutely,
this is hard."
Because they're not just names. They are people, and the way their life ended is just not supposed to happen. And I don't know the judge. I'm going to presume that he's a father, and I know in those cases with us, I know you're not a father yet, but you think of your kids. That's what you think about. You think of your own kids. People might think, we don't put our opinions in the story, but I'm sorry. A story like this captivates people because we think of our own families. And I don't blame the judge for showing that bit of emotion, that it was hard.
Apologies for that transition there. That was the wrong transition. But that is a look at Judge John Judge. Oh, this is now a second camera angle that we're getting. So they're feeding back
now
multiple
the judge
angles, and now we're seeing the judge. Because
can you play the audio on this? Maybe
I can. Yes, yeah. Bring this up.
Except there isn't.
No.
Maybe sometimes they'll feed the second one without audio. That's too bad.
The second without audio.
That's too bad.
So then they're going to sync it up later.
It would have been nice to see the pause when he said, "This is."
Let me hold on. Let me try one more feed. Let me make sure. Let me just try some wizardry here for a second and see if we can bring up any audio from. No. So they're feeding back the second camera angle without audio. So yes, that moment where Judge, and people will be able to sync this up later, but the moment where he said, "I'm sorry, this is hard." Let's not forget. And Jennifer, I know you're standing by. We'll bring you in here in just a second. In fact, let's pop you on screen now. Let's not forget what he's looking at. In front of him, he's looking at the suspect alongside the defense attorney and Taylor. He's looking at prosecutors, and then behind him, and in a packed courtroom, and most of the folks in attendance are family members. And as the names are being read, there's no doubt going to be an outpouring of emotion. So Judge might have gotten caught up in the moment there. And look, I'm just going to say this. I know that there's a lot of chatter online and a lot of chatter in our comment section about the mispronunciation of a couple of the names there. This is his first time in the courtroom for this particular case. Let's not forget this has been elevated now to district court. So this is the first time he said, "I'm going to be the one presiding over the case," but this is the first time that he has been, as I understand it, in the courtroom with Brian Kohberger and this case. And also too, if he was getting emotional, if he was getting caught up in this, I wonder if people are going to be dissecting that element. I know that, I'm thinking of Peter Tragos, Emily Baker, some of the great lawyers online that dissect every little development, big, small, tiny in a courtroom and try to make sense of it. But whether or not him pausing and mispronouncing the names tells us anything about where this goes from here. Jennifer, let's bring you in. What did you make of Bryan Kohberger's arraignment, having watched it for the first time?
Well, I think the interesting thing is to contrast it with the other time we saw him in court, where he says not guilty, and where he, enters his plea, and where before that, at least according to his attorney, he said he is going to prove his innocence or exonerate himself, I think were the words. So I just find it a bit of a contrast, this move he made not to say the word.
Yeah, standing silent, as Walt noted, was an option for Bryan Kohberger, and he chose that particular option. I want to read Peter. People who are looking for the lawyer, Peter Tragos. He tried to get on stream. He said that he had some mind-blowing technical difficulties. He offers his apologies, but I said, hey man, text me some notes, and I'll read kind of what you have to say. And this is from Peter, the lawyer, he'll be live later. He says, October trial date indicates he's not waiving speedy trial at this point. Standing silent is effectively the same thing as entering a not guilty plea, but things can be read into that. And then 60 days to notify for the death penalty. And I expect, Peter Tragos expects, again, this is his analysis, expects the state to go for the death penalty. And so that notice has to be served within 60 days. That is in fact their intent. And I just want to read, just say this one thing before we go into some of the comments here. As we look here at some of the secondary camera angles, looks like the pool camera operator is zooming in on something here. I just really want to point out that if Judge was emotional in reading the names, people might read something into that, but people are human. They make mistakes. I've mispronounced names on live stream, and I feel terrible when I do it. I feel absolutely terrible. Yeah. And he might go back to his office now, his chambers, and get just mountains of hate mail saying, how dare you mispronounce some of these names? But people are human. Please remember that. Mistakes happen, and it's not meant with any disrespect. It likely, in all likelihood, it was just human error, and that can happen. I know that might have been, look, it's the family members in the courtroom. Maybe they'll be asked as to whether or not that was upsetting to them, but mistakes happen in courtrooms all the time. And so if maybe he was emotionally caught up in the moment.
Mispronunciations of names happen in courtrooms all the time.
Oh, frequently.
We will go into a hearing and think we have the pronunciation correct. A judge says it differently. A prosecutor says it differently. Then we're forced to call whoever we can call and say which is the correct way. So yeah, it does happen. I get how people would be upset about it, but yeah, you're right. The judge is human.
As we're looking in here on a zoomed in shot, no shaving cuts of note, no look, I'll let our audience, if there's any observations that people want to make as to Bryan Kohberger's appearance, his demeanor, his mannerisms. This is now, we're officially opening up, starting now. Hashtag HJB, hashtag HWalt, hashtag HJennifer. We're just going to spend the next few minutes going through, really maybe even more than the next few minutes, going over as many of your social media comments as possible, because we want to interactively talk with you here, answer your questions about where this goes from here. What we want to do as well is garner your reaction. And let's not forget, folks, that that's probably started right around now. I think is it the gag order, Jennifer? The motion on the gag order is happening as we speak?
Yes, should be.
And let's see if Brian Entin is back in court. I'll just kind of refresh this really quickly. He has not indicated as such. He might have indicated as much on News Nation. Let's go to the comments. We're going to really focus in on YouTube Live. We'll bounce to TikTok and maybe Twitter as well. But let's go to, this is what I'm talking about, some of the micro observations. Caitlin says he was swallowing and clenching a lot.
I have a tweet. Somebody tweeted at me, and you noticed it too on the tight shot. By the way, this type of stuff.
Super chat, $5. Thank you. He looks at his lawyer a little longer than normal. I wonder if her hair reminds him of his victims.
Thank you, Jeff. He looks at his lawyer a little longer than normal. Yeah. all I could think about was sucks to be you, bud. You seem to obviously have female issues. And I'm thinking that there's like, it, no offense, but it kind of reminds me of Greeno, right? When women are useful to you, they're useful, and when they're not, they're not. But let's go over to Twitter, guys, and because they're starting that gag order thing, so let's do that first. Share screen. Let's go over to Twitter. This is about the gag order. So let's do that. And thank you again, Jeff, for that. Nice to see you, buddy. Okay, so let's take this off for a second. And on Twitter, so we just have so far, hearing related to Brian Kohberger gag order is about to start. Can't stop thinking about Olivia's baby in court. The message is sent. See if he said anything else. Okay, well, he has this up. So let's watch this again, guys. I think that they're just replaying how he's coming. He looks kind of stiff, doesn't he? He don't look like he's stiff, does he? Yeah, you could always see when they're in his cheekbones there where they kept pulsating. Okay. It reminds me of somebody that walks in like they're a shit brick house, got gums blazing and pumping, but he doesn't have any. But he has that look that reminds me of that. This stiff, like, I don't know why, but his nose bugs me. Whenever I see his nose, it just bugs me. Can't stand his nose. Maybe it's just I can't stand his face, but his nose. Yeah, the shackles. Maybe that's why he's walking. Okay, so I guess we can play this 50 times over. It's just replaying, to be honest with you. Let's see. Let's see if anything else is going on. We can always go back to that. Let's see. Nope. Nothing yet. Okay, well, you know what? JB and that, they're just going over people's conversations, and that's something that can be watched. We can watch that again in a bit here. Yeah. Whoops. Here, actually, let me make that bigger again. Let's just, because there's nothing being said yet, might as well make this bigger. Keep staring at it. Yeah. So October 2nd, eh? Even though I don't believe it's going to happen then. Every time you hear a court date, there's always something going on. For somebody who had a PhD in criminology, he definitely doesn't know how to hide his emotions. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that the whole time, Alexa. Let's see. Okay, let me come off of this again. make it smaller. Oh, I'm just going to hit refresh, see if there's anything. What's a gag order? Oh, what's this say? Okay. The family would like to thank everyone for continuing to follow this case and keep the memories of Kaylee, Maddie, Zaina, and Ethan alive. They are what is important, not the defendant. We are thankful that the Latte County District Attorney's Office finally took the case to our GJ and came back with an indictment, grand jury, obviously. At the same time, we are disappointed that the judicial process has not been more efficient in addressing the gag order. This is just the beginning of a long journey for all families, and we are thankful for your continued support and coverage. Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the gag order, it went to like the higher court and then they sent it back down to the lower court again, if I'm not mistaken. Because they said, you know, it needs to be dealt with in the whatever court it was, the lower court, then the Supreme Court, I think it was. Don't quote me on that. I just remember seeing something where I believe it went to the higher court, then they sent it back down to the lower courts. So, is there one person in here that thinks that he's innocent? Let me just see if anything else is being said. No, okay, so let me stop screen and go back over to this dude. We'll go over to, hey, JB.
Purged after solitary confinement after a long period of time. We've seen people who have completely shaved heads or a dramatically different appearance or weight loss, and we've seen different physical transformations when it comes to inmates over a longer period of time behind bars. And Brian Kohberger, for the most part, appearance-wise, relatively consistent to what we saw in January. So we were highlighting some of the observations as well. Somebody asked, and it was on screen for a moment, whether or not Brian Kohberger's parents or family members were there. It did not. It did not appear that they were there. Let's go to Kimmy Warfield. Hashtags all around for all of us. Will this trial be live streamed, or will we have to wait like we did today? I want to bring this up really quickly. I know there's more important questions, but I know that this one people want to know the answer to. And if Idaho court policy remains the same, and we know that the gag order hearing is taking place right now as we look here at a closer shot of Judge John Judge. He might be now reading the names, by the way. Or no, he's not speaking at all at the moment. He's looking at his calendar, I think. Hashtag KJB, Jennifer Wall, will the trial be live streamed, or will we have to wait like we did today? The answer to this is based on Idaho court policy. You can't live stream out of the courtroom. And people were like, oh, so you mean today was the 30-minute delay and we'll be able to watch it on a 30-minute delay in October? No, that's not how this works. Based on our understanding of Idaho court policy, that particular hearing or each individual court event, if you will, cannot be distributed until that hearing has concluded. So if I'm reading into this correctly, that would mean that either the entire day's events can be streamed and distributed after 5 o'clock, after they adjourn for the day, or maybe, and us in the media, we have to do our part in asking these questions. Right. But will the judge allow us on lunch break to transmit the first half of the day, and then after the court is adjourned for the day, then transmit the second half of the day?
There are courts that will not allow you to take things, quote unquote, out of context. And if that's the case, they may very well want it all to be distributed at once, as opposed to bits and pieces getting out. I don't know, but I've definitely experienced that before in other jurisdictions. And maybe the law will change. Maybe there'll be a demand in Idaho. They did just change. I don't know, ironically, or they did just change. They just authorized the firing squad in Idaho.
Reason being is because there have been holdups in several states regarding the chemicals, the means necessary to do lethal injection. That there has been some difficulties in obtaining the means to carry out lethal injection. So giving the state the other option of a firing squad, yeah, that's reality right now in Idaho. Really quickly, C. Glenn hashtags for myself and Jennifer. I'm going to go to you because this one has a hashtag for you.
Yeah, Alexa, unless it changes, then when the hearing comes, they might just simply do it where it can only be streamed after the court day is ended, which will suck. I mean, hopefully not. It would be nice to watch it live, but as it sits, I think it's like, yeah, after the day's ended, then they'll be able to show the coverage of it. It's better than nothing, right? Though, I guess, right?
You might standing silent indicate willingness to accept a plea deal?
Well, that's what I was alluding to earlier. I think it is a control deal unless this is alluding to that. It's a possibility. I think if the state moves to notice the court to put the death penalty on the table, which I think they will, I think, it's a whole different conversation, and he's waiting to see that as well.
How about this question from Nicole? Very interesting. Hashtag KJB. I think he wanted to hear someone else say that he is not guilty. An interesting way of thinking about, there was a calculated decision behind standing silent and why someone might, again, LawTube. I know that some of the great names on LawTube are going to be analyzing this for hours or days. But the decision itself to not say the words "not guilty" and perhaps wanting to hear someone else, whether it's your legal representation, your attorney saying it, or the judge who's the most authoritative figure in the room saying the words "not guilty." Is there a mental sort of
Interesting thought?
I'm not
and
sure.
Talk about control. I mean, you're making the judge say you're not guilty.
Folks, we're going to be following along here too, and I'm trying to get an update about. Oh, I want to read this. This is interesting from Brian Entin. Can't stop thinking about Olivia's baby.
We'll stop that there for a second because we already seen that tweet, or I already said that tweet. But anyways, it says Kohberger is back in the courtroom for a gag order hearing. Brian Entin put that out 2 minutes ago there. So basically, JB is just reading the same stuff.
Always respected. I have a lot of friends who are attorneys.
Thoughts and observations and feedback on the legal process, all in real time. That was never possible ever before in human history. That in real time you can follow someone's legal fate. You can follow the fate of Brian Kohberger. Actually, in Idaho, you can't because you can't stream the video. But I mean, if this case, just like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you could follow every time that something happened in the courtroom. It wasn't just the people in the courtroom that were reacting to it. It was everybody around the world that were watching it in real time. So perhaps there needs to be more of a conversation in this country about how the legal process in high-profile cases especially is protected, but also that constitutional law isn't violated when it comes to us being reporters, the media having access to what is happening so that we can document history. All right, that's enough of that, I promise. Let's go back to some of the comments that are coming in. And so Brian Entin is tweeting, according to a lot of people that are messaging me in all caps, and says that Brian Kohberger is back in court right now for the gag order hearing. So he has elected to appear. Now, as we understand it, there might have been the option for him to waive his right to appear But Jennifer, this was just my 2 cents on this earlier. Given his background, given his, given his education, him being, there's very little surprise here about him wanting to be involved in the process, and also not being in a rush to get back to the same solitary confinement cell that he has been in for the last 5 months, correct?
He is going to be an integral part of his defense. He is tearing through those terabytes right now. Yeah. Well, maybe not this moment, but that's what he's doing in his cell, and he's not going to miss 1 minute of these hearings.
So he's back in court for now the gag order. Now, if you're Bryan Kohberger and you're hearing about this gag, what does Bryan Kohberger think of the gag order?
I would bet he doesn't like the gag order. I don't know.
Oh, I think he wants it.
Maybe he does.
You think he wants it, Jennifer?
I think he does. I think he wants it. Right. Because he's going to want all the fame, and he's getting the fame because his name is out there every single day, every single hour. But he doesn't want all this evidence that they have out. I'm very convinced of that.
When I said he would like it, I was thinking the same thing about wanting the fame. Of course, that would be
he's gonna have fame regardless, right?
But if he is who we might
fame,
think he
fame
is,
isn't the right word. Infamy is the better word. Yeah.
If he wants, but of course he would. I mean, if he is who some suspect he is, for him it's fame. It's not infamy,
right?
But I just wonder if. Well, I don't know. Jennifer's probably right, and if he's a criminal, he was studying criminology. He definitely would want the gag order if he's studying criminology, because he would understand the danger of information getting out, partial information getting out, information getting interpreted, information corrupting a potential jury pool.
Isn't the more access the media has to the process, and the more interviews that take place, and the more prodding that exists, is there a thought behind there's more of a chance for some sort of mishap to occur that jeopardizes the legal process? And that's behind also Bryan Kohberger's analysis of the gag order, Jennifer?
Well, anytime you put witnesses up where they can be interviewed by the media, there is such a huge issue with them giving a statement, and then they would have given a statement previously to law enforcement, and then they gave a statement in the grand jury, and now they're going to give a statement on the stand. So from a prosecution standpoint, it's horrible, because you know how it is in the media. I mean, you make one miscue with a word and it's, a big deal. Can you imagine in court if they just misstated something or corrected it? It's a very difficult situation. So that's what the prosecution is looking at avoiding.
Very interesting. I want to go to this comment from Lissy saying #KJB. I, as a lawyer, would also appear. So understandable he does that as a criminology student. Yeah, there's very little surprise to me, and that he wants to be involved in his own defense. He wants to be involved in the process. He doesn't want to be in the.
Well, I think you make a great point, though. I mean, he also probably, well, we don't know anything about him. We don't know enough about him. Maybe he likes to be alone.
Okay, let's go back to this, because you put up the video again. So, they can babble all they want over there. Sorry, hey, JB. Let's watch this again, you guys, and go through it a little bit. Hey, Lissy. So,
penalty, in addition to Berger standing silent when the judge asked if he would enter a guilty or not guilty plea. At that point, the judge entered a not guilty plea on Bryan Kohberger's behalf. He read them through the procedural process of 5 counts. Count 1, burglary. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5, murder in the first degree in the deaths and murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. The maximum penalty In addition to a burglary charge, up to 10 years would be 4 consecutive life sentences and or the death penalty if he is found guilty. You can hear some sniffles in the courtroom. I know the families of the 4 University of Idaho students are in the courtroom as well. I believe we have News Nation's Brian Entin standing by. Brian, what's it like in there and for these families as they prepared for this difficult day?
Yeah, Marty, I just stepped out. It was emotional. I mean, there were about 25 family members representing the 4 victims, which was a lot. There were a lot of people that I didn't even recognize that hadn't been to the hearings in the past. It was a very, very small courtroom, so they took up about half of the courtroom, all seated on one side. They were emotional even before court began, and then they brought Brian Kohberger in right before they started the proceeding. And again, it's so small that where they were sitting was really very, very close to Kohberger. So it made for a somewhat uncomfortable situation, obviously, for them to be that close to the man accused of killing their loved ones. But they powered through it. You said you heard the sniffling. I mean, there was certainly crying. One thing that really struck me is Kaylee's sister, Olivia. Last time I interviewed her, she was pregnant. Well, she's now had the baby, and she had the baby with her in court, sort of strapped to her chest. So as they were doing all of this, you could sort of hear like baby cooing noises. And I think maybe that brought the family some support. I saw Kaylee's mom, Christy, go and sit next to her daughter and the baby. And I think that sort of lightened the mood a little bit. But the big news, obviously, he didn't officially enter a plea. So the judge entered a not guilty plea for him. And this trial has now been set October 2nd. Not far away at all. And they say it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, Marnie.
Brian, this is the first time that we've seen Brian Kohberger in court in the last couple of months. What did you notice about him? He said just a few words, yes, I do, yes, no, just going through the procedure of it all. What did he look like? How did he seem?
Yeah, in terms of how he looked, I mean, he looked about the same to me as last time I saw him, last time he was in court here a couple of months ago. I was really like paying attention to see, did he look skinnier? Did he look bigger? Were there any changes? He looked about the same to me. His hair looked a little bit longer. His build, it's hard to make out because he's wearing what appears to be some kind of like big, bulky, bulletproof vest or something like that. I don't know what the right name is, underneath the orange jumpsuit. So he looks a lot bigger than he actually is because you could tell it was a big vest underneath. And he sort of had the same demeanor as last time, came in very, very quiet, just sort of looked straight ahead at the judge. He had to answer those yes or no questions, and he did. And he, was very like sort of stern in the way he answered. He didn't just say like yes softly. I mean, you heard it. He answered very like he knew exactly what was going on. And they went through all the questions, and he never seemed to look back at any of the victims' families. I did not notice anyone from his family in court.
And another court date now set for October, correct, Brian?
Yeah, not just a court date. I mean, the trial. The trial has now been set for October 2nd. Of course, there could be delays. Things could change between now and then, but both sides agreed and said they're ready to go October 2nd for a 4 to 6 week trial.
Chilling. All right, Brian Entin in Idaho.
Shelly. Oh, Zealand. Shelly, I feel like I'm rubbing off on you. Okay. So thing is, Shelly, I've been there. Anybody else been in Shelly's shoes? Oh, that cracked me up. Sorry. All I was picturing was, yep, been there before. Okay, so let's see here. So my thing is this. Can you guys answer me on this one? So what did that exactly mean that, so he didn't enter the not guilty plea? Is that somebody's 6 months for Charmaine Stewart? Thanks, Charmaine. Okay. So how come he didn't have to enter not guilty? Like, why did the judge have to do that for him? I thought that was a little strange. Like, he didn't order that, or say the not guilty, but because he just like, you would think he would have to say not guilty, but I guess the judge says it for him. I don't really understand that. Let's see if there's any new tweets. Anything? Nope. Because he stayed silent. But he spoke when he had to answer certain things. Okay, so is that what you guys were meaning when you said stay silent? Guilty or stay mute silent? Gotcha. It would be really nice, and I don't know, it just would be nice if across the map that things were a little bit more consistent with everything with cameras, instead of this state has this rules and these ones have those rules and blah 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 blah. Okay. Oh, okay. Is that what that was? Thank you. So I don't see any new tweet coming out about the gag order thing. What do you guys think? Gag order will remain in place, or do you think it will just stay as it is? I can go back over to share screen. I can go back over to this as well. Let's see where are we at.
Wants to be the center.
Just some different.
Oh, I think I forgot to hit play.
Other people that we.
My first instinct as a journalist is to vet it. Is to try to, and as to your point, Walt, go for a second source.
Well, and you go for the you could go to a law enforcement agency and say, look, here's what I'm told. And, part of it is psychological in a way. How do they react? Are they stone-faced like we think Jennifer would have been? Or like an FBI agent would have been? I mean, I've known FBI agents to talk a little bit, but nothing on record.
You've had more luck.
Nothing on record.
I've never had a federal agent. I've made friends with a lot of cops. I've made friends with a lot of state troopers, state police. I've never a source in the handful of times where I've said sources say. I'm just going to say, I don't think it's ever been an FBI agent. I have a better chance making one of my cats come to life and talk with me at home than I do a federal agent.
On Jennifer's question,
I do.
There's no obligation for us to use what the sources say. And in fact, our organization, Nexstar, frowns on the use of sources. And there's certain things that are required when here's what sources tell me. And it would depend on is the story. Is it such an important story we are warning people about something? Like that would be a way that you would go, okay, I can see using it then.
You weigh every little, I think, I don't know about you, the amount of times that I have used sources in my reporting, I could probably count them on one hand in my whole career.
I would say the same.
And it's only like the circumstances just have to be aligned in a certain way where you are doing it for the greater good.
It is the easier way to do it. And it's the faster way to do it. On a Monday, I get a source and I go on and I say, a source tells me, blah, please, no. So now that's the lazy way to go. Now on Tuesday, I get a second source. Now I got sources. The lazy thing to do, or the aggressive thing to do, you might say, I think, is to say sources say, but I'm trying to beat the competition. I got to beat the competition. The competitive nature of what we do is huge.
Because that source could be talking to other media outlets.
That's right. And you've got a scoop. You've got a scoop. But the better thing to do is to use the sources and go to the horse's mouth, if you will, and say, here's what I know. Can you verify it? Here's what I know. I'm not going to tell you how I got it. Can you verify it?
The reason we're having an extended conversation about this, folks, is because this might be the reality for the next, 5 months, 4 to 5 months, because if the gag order remains in effect and is upheld at multiple levels of the Idaho court system, then then the only way that we're going to be getting information directly from law enforcement or prosecutors or anybody involved really in the process now legally is going to be through sources say, or a source says, and that might be the prism in which we are viewing information and receiving information.
It will definitely happen with this case. There's no doubt.
Yep, and already has. So we're paying. Yeah, Jennifer.
Can I ask one quick question? Sorry, because I never look at it as you're saying it. In other words, if you believed what a person came to you and said, you had no equivocation, isn't it your duty to report that? And maybe it's just my ignorance of understanding the process. If you 100% believe that, and you are charged with presenting known facts that you believe to the public, just help me with this.
Because
I don't know that a source, these aren't, look, for us.
It's an excellent question, though.
For us, though, look, I got to be honest with you. I'm never 100% sure about anything in many ways, because anything can happen. You know, you can get close to it, but the point would be, if it's a source and that doesn't want to be identified, they could be making something up. So I wouldn't consider anything a source tells me is necessarily fact. I want something from the source that makes me believe it is a fact. And as far as the responsibility to report it, I would again go back to, are the sources telling me that a water supply is poison? That's the public good. That's important. Are the sources telling me, I'm working on a case today about a murder suspect on the run who's just a long trail of trouble. Are the sources telling me where this guy is? And do I have multiple sources telling me that? My first step would be take those sources to the law enforcement, the U.S. Marshal who are looking for him. But beyond that, if it's a basic case like this, where it's, I hate to say it, but I don't want to call it entertainment.
The case now.
I don't want to call it entertainment, but it is, we are interested in this case. There's an intrigue. Is what my source is telling me going to is it worth harming the case?
Jennifer, to answer your question, if a source comes to me with information, I'm not going to be used as a megaphone to just repeat that information like a squawk box. I'm not just gonna continue, not gonna just relay that. Our jobs as reporters is then to get more, use that as a launching point to receive more information, and also to make sure that this person is telling us the truth, and also not just a part of the truth. Sometimes people might come to you with information and tell you, 30% of the reality of the situation. And then it's really, if you just then announce that on Twitter, then you're not doing your job as a reporter to then dig into what's, the other connecting tissue really of what that information means for the public.
A friend of mine, the late Jack White, who won a Pulitzer Prize. He was a journalist for the Providence Journal in the early 70s. His story is why, the use of his story is why, and I believe he used sources in that story. Not to question Jack White at all, but he won a Pulitzer.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly read what Brian Entin has tweeted so far. He says, Judge says that the media coalition went to the Supreme Court. Okay, that's what I was saying. And it has slowed down the process. Because remember, I was saying earlier that it went to the higher court, which I believe was the Supreme Court. And then they sent it back down. They said that it has to be dealt with in the lower court. So then the next tweet was, Gonzalez's family attorney wants the gag order issues resolved quickly, asking the judge to address it this week. And that's what we have so far for that. So I just wanted to let you know that. So we're probably not going to hear much on the gag order. Besides maybe at some point this week. Who knows? Okay, let's go back.
Asking the judge to address it this week. The judge says because the media coalition went to the Supreme Court,
get off
it
my
has slowed the
freaking live,
process
buddy.
down.
I just said that.
So the judge is saying that the media coalition's decision to go to the highest court in Idaho has complicated and slowed the process down. I find that to be...
Isn't Idaho one of our reddest states? I believe it is. I just looked it up. It's a very conservative state. I'm not saying, and I just would say that theoretically, and I don't know if the judges there are elected as they are in Florida or appointed. If they're appointed, I mean, a conservative judge is going to take, I think, that approach for release of information. I've had judges who would let us in the courtroom but not record the audio because they did not want anything taken out of context. They were expecting, okay, you've got to put the whole testimony, which we can't do in a story that's a minute and a half. And I kind of get that. I get that because out of context can be out of context and it can slant a case either way. But so that sounds like a conservative view of it, but it could very well have slowed down the process.
But I know Jennifer is just thinking, just protect the process, right, Jennifer?
No, what I'm chomping at the bit about is that the media.
I think Jennifer, if you can hear us, you froze up a bit on the Zoom call. Hopefully it'll unfreeze here in just a second. It's always when they blink. It's always when they blink too. So now
it was also at a very like a cliffhanger point of view. Like she said, the media.
Yeah, she was setting
like
it
the
up.
next sentence would have revealed what she was going to say.
Jennifer, if you can hear us still, it appears we've lost you on the Zoom call. You're frozen. I'm still looking at you here on my multi-view. So we'll try to get you back here in a moment. But we'll go to M's comment here. Let's bring up here. Let's go here to Meanwhile. Bring up the comment. M says, hashtag AJB, exactly. A source should be a starting point, not the whole story.
That's right.
Love hearing how others in the media deal with these things. But to your point,
it's so competitive.
It's so competitive, but at the same time, not everyone has the same standards.
No, there's no.
That's it.
And people may not realize this, but so we know a guy that's a national correspondent like Brian has gone up through the ranks and worked in markets. And the way it works, you work in market A, which is a smaller market, maybe a Boise, Idaho. I don't know if that's a starting market, but the smallest market is Glendive, Montana. It's 2010, 210. There's 210 markets. There are journalists, TV journalists and print journalists who will start with a small paper and maybe stay there their whole life, which I think is awesome. The money's not going to be very good in those places because the commercials aren't as expensive. But I think it's awesome when somebody stays in a place and reports on the place they know. However, the people who want to move up will sometimes be a little overly aggressive on
overzealous.
They need a scoop. I need a scoop. I got to put a scoop on my reel, or I need a scoop on.
Is he saying that Brian Entin is stepping on stones to get up there because he needs the scoops? I love Brian Entin, by the way. Actually, I like Hey JB as well. I think that goes with anything, though, even in, like I said, YouTube creators, right? When people start preaching their morals on me, then I have an issue with that because how I see something and how they see something can be two different things. But it's not up to anybody to preach their morals on me. If we don't agree with someone, like I said, so be it. If I think what I'm doing is true to my heart and staying, true to who I am, nobody has any business telling me differently. If they don't want to watch me because of that, so be it. Have a good day. See you later. But that's just kind of like what they're saying here is that the sources. Everyone wants that latest scoop, get out there for money and stuff like that or whatever. But again, it just really deems on what somebody's morals are deemed as, right? But nobody else is here to tell anybody else what their morals should be or whatever at the end of the day. If we don't like it, then so be it. Preach it, Sonny. All right, I will.
And a lot of confidence in your sources, and really it's in a way going all in at the poker table, because if your source is wrong or your source has manipulated you or your source has an agenda or if your information isn't correct or it's only telling a part of the story,
that's right. You're taking something out of context.
You're jeopardizing your career.
Yes, and I'll tell you, I think in this world where our former president In my opinion, and I don't have a dog in the fight, I really don't. But when our former president, in my opinion, misused the word fake news over and over to the point where now the national people across the country use fake news as to opine on a story they don't agree with, or they use fake news maybe to opine on a story that is all source based. Well, that fuels that, and it because fake news, what fake news really means, it is fake. It is a completely fabricated story, and stories that the former President Trump said were fake news, they weren't completely fabricated. He just necessarily didn't agree with it, and that so because of that, I think it's important, more important than ever, that we verify somehow on the record.
Yeah. And I've talked about on stream in the past about how the public in a lot of different ways has lost. But there has been the trust that exists.
Angel, you're allowed to type bitching the right
between
way.
the public and the media at large has endured. It's been fractured in a way, but I hope that people remember that there's different.
Okay, I see another tweet coming in. So instead of just hopping over there, let's see here. I'm just going to read it here. So 6 minutes ago, judge says AP Media Coalition needs to tone down their challenge to the gag order. Really, to tone down their challenge to the gag order, huh? Brian Entin tweeted 4 minutes ago, there are two different issues happening in court right now with the Kohberger gag order. One, the Gonzalez attorney wants clarity so he can speak on behalf of his clients. Two, the media coalition is fighting for more public information and a less strict gag order. The judge says, that one makes me laugh. The judge says AP and Media Coalition needs to tone down their challenge to the gag order. The heck does that even mean? Tone it down? Are they fighting too hard for it or something? That seems silly.
Oh yeah.
You can't go and ask the president without asking the vice president. They made a crucial error, basically saying we don't really care about what this district court judge says. So you've got the layers. It was the magistrate judge, then the district judge, and then the judge above that. And instead of going the right sequence, they jumped him. And that is seen, I can tell you, as disrespectful.
And I think that was in all likelihood done to expedite the process, saying, look, it's going to, I guess if you're the media coalition attorney, you're of the mindset that this is going to go to Idaho Supreme Court eventually. It's going to be challenged at that level of the state eventually. Let's just can we just get this along and move this along and just get to the highest court in the state possible? But that's not really, in Jennifer's opinion and others, that's not exactly how the process works.
She's right. I would have to agree with that.
Jennifer, before we lose you to a lightning storm and an internet outage, I want to just give you the floor is yours. We're going to continue to take everyone's questions here out of the YouTube live comment section, Twitter, TikTok as well. But the floor is yours before we say farewell.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on. Well, it's always great to be here with you. I'm sorry we missed Mr. Tragos and Mr. Entin, my buddy. But your audience is always just one of the best. It's amazing. I always look back at their questions and their comments. They're great. Thank you for having me.
Jennifer,
Thanks, Jennifer.
You're always welcome here on WFLA Now. We really appreciate you.
It's always great to hear actual words from an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Other than
you beat me to
I
it.
can neither confirm
nor deny.
Which I remember I remember the first time I heard that as a young television reporter in Marshall, Texas, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. Then of course I kept hearing it. And I kept hearing it.
When you're young,
and I thought, oh, okay. I guess.
It's like, wow, the FBI responded.
I know.
But then you get the same response over and over and over again, and you're thinking, do they just? Jennifer, can you tell me? Do they type the words I can neither confirm nor deny, or do they just copy and paste it from all the previous emails that they send out? That's really what I want to know.
We have it memorized on the second day of training school.
It's just built into the fabric of their brains.
But I get it, because too much information It can the novel Crime and Punishment, which I was told to read as a young journalist, talks about it. You know, a cop, an investigator, does not want a suspect, a defendant, to say, "Oh, well," if they incriminate themselves, they can't. If it hasn't been released and they know it's locked down, that suspect cannot go, "Oh, I heard it on the. I heard that on TV. I heard that on TV." No, you didn't. We didn't release that information. And that guy's now incriminated himself. That's a basic reason. I get that.
Jennifer, we appreciate you and your candor, and thank you, and you're always welcome back. I'm sure we'll see you on News Nation tonight.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All righty. Jennifer Coffendoffer, everybody. And
my friend, I've got to leave in like 5 minutes.
That's all right. It's all right.
It was interesting to be back,
alone
man. This
all
is
the
great.
time.
You've come a long way since you were out in the newsroom where
know.
we didn't show the wide shot. And,
yeah. So
and,
look, now we have the wide shot.
Yeah, it's nice.
And we're coming back to everybody to the content matter, or the subject matter rather. But yeah, Walt, it's this is your first time in here streaming with me?
No, I think a couple other times.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh no, wait, the first live stream we ever did in here, you were part of.
That's right. We just talked about it. Yes, yeah. And you haven't asked me since, and I think it's because I don't walk by your desk anymore.
Well, you gotta come say hello, man.
You're separate. You should have you. Do you have a piece where you show where you moved from? You must have.
I think I think we had a very small setup.
Because our offices were. Well, you didn't really have an office. You were wide open. You were in the middle of the newsroom.
Yeah.
So walking by.
Oh God, I used to piss people off so much because I have a loud voice, so I would be in the middle of the newsroom. And
I remember you and Masa when I first got here.
We are
yelling at each other about talking too loud.
Yeah,
but you were both right.
But all in fun because we're like a brother sister.
I don't know if it was fun the one time, but it wasn't. It wasn't terrible, but I'm just saying,
was hilarious.
I get it. You know,
Masa and I are the two loudest people at WFLA, and we know that.
That's
and
all right.
So we try to
just enunciating.
It's
how you are. You're projecting.
Trying to make sure that people can hear me loud and clear. You can hear me loud and clear when I say.
That's how he started talking softlier as he was talking.
New feed that just popped up. Now this is from News Nation. This is News Nation's camera path, and I believe this is live, but I will confirm if this is live. And this might be for a variety of different reasons. It might be to capture Brian Kohberger leaving the Latah County Courthouse, but we'll keep an eye. In fact, I'll bring this up here in the center of our screen. Do you have another few minutes to do a rapid fire?
Just quickly, you guys, the last thing that's being said, judge is not making any decisions today on Kohberger's gag order. Hearing is set for June 9th to address it. Also a hearing June 27th to address cameras in court. So that's the latest on the tweets from Brian Entin. Let me just refresh. Yeah, okay. So we'll go back to this again.
Frustration is really not done that often. I'm not sure if either of those attorneys would agree it's extreme. I know when I've tried to think, oh, that juror will be sequestered, I was wrong. So it's possible it won't be sequestered. The judge tells the jurors, beginning of the day, end of the day, generally, maybe at lunch break, probably at lunch break, do not watch any media, do not do this, do not do that. Do they really do it? Who knows? But they are told and they are warned, and jurors get removed. It's really embarrassing to get removed, but it's hard. It's harder now than it's ever been because we have social media as well. And so that's a hard thing to predict.
Hashtag Hey Walt, can you tell us a little bit about why the judge was changed and what that may mean about the gag order? So really quickly, the judge was changed because this went to district court.
Right.
So it's in a different court now. And that is... of course, that changes the legal sort of.
Well, that's
trajectory.
an arraignment court generally. You're arraigned there. I don't think it impacts the gag order. And I think if I was a betting man, and you probably could bet on it somewhere, I would say the gag order remains in place. In a state like Idaho, it remains in place. In a different state, in a less conservative state, it might be removed, but I would bet in a state like Idaho, and maybe even in a less conservative state, I would think you keep the gag order again, because this story has such intrigue. It will no doubt be a movie. There's going to be multiple books. I think there's already one underway. There.
1 second. Brian Entin tweeted, correction. Both gag order and cameras will be addressed on the 9th. The 27th is an evidentiary hearing. Okay, that's what I thought when he said that. I was like, I thought the June 27th was... But then anyway, so correction, he says, both gag order and cameras will be addressed on June 9th, and June 27th is the evidentiary hearing. Okay.
We're across the world for this case. So,
and as far as what that may mean about the gag order, Brian Entin tweeting out 11 minutes ago, there are two different issues happening in court right now with the Kohberger gag order. The Goncalves family, Goncalves attorney wants clarity so that he can speak on behalf of his clients. And the media coalition is fighting for more public information and less strict of a gag order. And then 3 minutes ago, Entin tweeting, the judge is not making any decisions today on the Kohberger gag order. Hearings set for June 9th to address it. Also a hearing June 27th to address cameras in court.
But if it's a law that they, even in states where
he's obviously not up to date on the correction like I was. Sorry, hey JB, I beat you, buddy.
Idaho, and also too at the same time, should streaming be permitted? So,
interesting. The original reason cameras were kicked out of courtrooms was not about information. It was not about information getting out. It was about the noise of the camera.
Oh wow!
Because it was film cameras, right? And that's a long time ago. That's why. And then
you can hear everything in a courtroom. For anyone who's never been in like a courtroom for a jury trial,
you should do it. By the way, it's a great. If you have never been in the courtroom for a jury trial, you should do it because it will change your perspective on our system.
Somebody could be pouring. Sometimes you'll see the pouring of a glass of water, and you can hear everything. The acoustics in most courtrooms are so vibrant and loud. You can hear even slightest people shifting in their seats. Sometimes something as quiet as that.
That's right.
Real quick, just refreshing here, make sure I'm not missing anything from. Oh, okay. No, Brian Entin, correction. Both the gag order and cameras will be addressed on the 9th. 27th is an event. I always have difficulty with this word.
Evidentiary?
Thank you. It's one of those words that I have a block.
Evidentiary.
Evidentiary. Man,
they want to see what the prosecution has, and quite frankly, the prosecution does not want to necessarily show their cards. They might deny that, but I think that's part of the game, if you will, the gamesmanship in a trial.
Oh, I want to get 3 more hashtag Hey Walt in before we let you go. Danielle, hashtag Hey Walt. I think Brian wanted to hear the judge say the words not guilty and hoping that that's the final outcome, and that's why he stood silent.
It's an interesting view of and a theoretical peek into the mind of an accused killer.
You guys, isn't there one more thing to go? There was 3, right? Wasn't there one more thing at 11 to 12, 12 to 1? Isn't there another one? Because there was 3 of them, and I forget. There was the arraignment, the gag order, and then what was the third one, you guys? Brain fart. Can't remember now.
And that's
it's important, but people make mistakes. And my goodness, the one that no pronunciation was more discussed than Alex Murdaugh. Alex Murdaugh or Alex Murdaugh? That was I had reporter friends from multiple states. I had reporter that one, and people still can't agree on if it's Murdaugh or Murdaugh.
From our point of view, that's frustrating. And in various stories, multiple stories in my career, the pronunciation has changed from day 1 to day 5, and then gone back to day 1. Yeah. And it's a discussion. And we don't take. I mean, at least I don't take it lightly. I've had people tell me after, oh, my name's pronounced this way. I go, why didn't you tell me? Oh, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I'll tell him or I asked him before. How do you pronounce your name? oh, some people say this, some people say that. What do you say? Because it is important, especially when it's a loved one. And so there should be an effort to clarify that and make a national sort of like AP puts pronunciation guides on
It took me 3
sites.
months to get your name right.
There are people in our newsroom who still don't have it right.
Buteau.
Yeah, Buteau, but it's not. Listen closely at the next meeting.
I know people still get it wrong.
I don't care.
I'm
Within my family, we pronounce it 4 different ways.
I get Buno a lot of different ways.
Right.
Too.
So I remember with you, I thought Bono, I think. But
did you call me?
No, I didn't
Bono?
call you that. Bono.
That would be funny. I don't think I've ever been called Bono.
Sonny Buno.
Yeah. I just mine's easy. Buno.
Buno. That's
Buno. That's how you say it.
You got a brand.
Buteau.
Well, I have a.
You have to emphasize the toe, man.
Buteau. Yeah. But that's just one pronunciation within my family. They pronounce it differently, so I don't take it personally.
Look, I see him every day, and it took a while for me to get his pronunciation right. Reminder: it's easier said.
There you go.
No, it's not easier said than done. You guys get what I'm saying. Let's see here. That was we got 2 more. Holly says you sound like Joe Rogan. You ever get that one?
I have. I need to listen to Joe Rogan to figure out what that means.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I guess that's not an insult.
It was the first #HeyWalt comment that I saw. And looking here at any others.
How many do you got? You have some that you did. Is that what you're doing right now? Let me get inside how the sausage is made here. Are you streaming through a number of questions and looking for the one that might be most pertinent? Is that what you're doing?
My work.
Interesting.
Interactive journalism. I don't. If you use the hashtag, it's not a guarantee that you get your comment on screen. I'm trying to carry the conversation forward here, and try to get to questions we haven't seen before. And some of them are on topic, and some are just people want to know, hey, Walt, who's your favorite baseball team?
I hate to say it's the Oakland A's.
It's rough times, man.
They're setting a record for futility.
Rough times. Charles G. #HeyWalt. Do you think that this case could be open and shut with the jury, or could end in a hung jury based on the evidence that is available to the public?
It really depends on the defense attorney. It really good. I've been in cases that seemed open and shut. That the O.J. Simpson trial, right? They make what you will of that. I don't know. That's such a hard thing to predict. And at this point, does he have a public? He has a public defender, doesn't he? Does he have a public defender?
Mm-hmm.
So, does the public defender should be allowed to get enough resources, as in money, to have great experts, because that's what's fair. Does that happen? You hope it happens, because he is not guilty of anything right now. He is officially not guilty. And so it just depends on the defense team, depends on the expert witnesses. Are you able to get the best a DNA guy in the country to do that? Do you have the resources to get the best DNA guy in the country? Because if you don't find the murder weapon, DNA is going to be huge.
In the field of genetic genealogy, as I understand it, being used to get narrowed down to the Kohberger family, and forensics,
huge,
and digital forensics will be absolutely monumental witnesses in this trial.
That's right.
Speaking of trial, Sarah wants to know #HeyWalt. Can he still plead insanity or incompetence? And
I think that's not allowed. I don't think Ohio. I thought you had in Idaho. Do you not have that option?
And even if you did have that option, is it past the?
You guys, what's the next one we're waiting for? Does anyone remember? I can't remember. Brian Entin said, and I forget. Brian Kohberger. Does anyone remember? Anybody? Because as far as I remember, there's still one more, right? Hey. Quit the chat about the lawnmower now. No, I don't remember. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay. Whoops. I want to stop screen. I'm going to go back over to share screen. Let's go back over to Brian Entin. Okay. What did he say earlier? We know he said something earlier. Yeah. Let's see what he said on this one.
I got to go back in there in a minute because we're all kind of lined up in this little entryway. The courthouse isn't open yet, but someone started a list, so I think I'm okay to be outside. But I'm going to go back in a second. But basically, the hearing is going to start at 9 a.m. local time. There's a couple hearings today. His arraignment will be at 9 a.m., where he will be read the charges and he'll have to plead guilty or not guilty. You know, the charges based on the grand jury indictment. And then there's 2 more hearings after that related to the gag order. So we are allowed to have a camera in the courtroom. So it will be videoed, but we're not allowed to live stream it. So when the hearing is over, we'll be able to put the video out. But I will be allowed to live tweet. We clarified with the court because last time it was a little confusing, and I didn't live tweet just because I was nervous. I didn't want to get kicked out. But this time they said live tweeting is allowed, just no video or pictures.
Okay. So I think there isn't another one. Shelley, I think it's that they kind of dealt with it at the same time because there was 2 motions, the one for Steve Gonzalez and that one, and then there was the media one. So I think those 2 have already been dealt with. Yeah, so I don't think that there is no more to what's going on. Yeah, because it was supposed to be at, I just missed 11:11. It's 11:13. Yeah, I just missed 11:11. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think so. And to be honest with you, it's quite boring me now, to be honest with you. I knew it wasn't going to be, it wasn't a huge burger day, but, at least we got to see him in court. Look at his ugly face and listen to him talk for a few moments and whatever, and just get a look at his, demeanor or whatever. Alexa, look at your messenger now. Tap. No. Yeah. But anyways, let's hope that they keep, yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys, I guess, in tonight's members live at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then Alexa, read your messenger. On there. But other than that, I think that's it. Well, I mean, I guess there's things for Richard Allen that have come out we can talk about in the members as well for the Richard Allen. There was the notice of discovery that was filed, the motion to suppress and motion to convert let bail hearing into suppression hearing. So those are the latest things, but of course, the minutes, of course, are confidential. Of course, anything you ask for now with RA is always confidential. Let's see. Richard Allen's side, filed by Richard, the defense's side. Yeah. So one sec. Everyone's watching court TV right now. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So anyways, you guys, I'm going to head off. Thank you guys for whoever stopped by. And thank you, Jeff, for the $5 donation earlier. And subscribers and your guys is sponsored for being members for 3 months and 6 months and all that good stuff. I want to know, have you seen that video, Sunny? Which video, Shelly? Which video? Bye, Hala. Hala. Do. Which video is it? The one that me and my husband made last night for my OnlyFans? That one? The one everyone's keeping it quiet. You playing with me? You trying to mess with my brain or something? The one everyone's keeping it quiet. I like how everyone spells quiet. It's a very common mistake when people are typing. About the discussion of Abby and Libby. I have no idea what you're talking about, to be honest, Shelley. About the discussion of Abby and Libby with the locals. Oh, that's old news. Yeah, you're talking about the people from the Lifetime that were doing that. Hi, Hala. Yeah, when I say I'm finished, it's usually a little bit longer than that. But anyways, that's what Frank wanted to talk about. The discussion about Abby and Libby with the locals. Well, if there was one, then I'd be disappointed if people knew about that and didn't share it with me, especially if they're close friends of mine. Hi, Claire. When Hannah was there. Well, yeah, Shelly, but that's the same one. That's the Lifetime one. That's the one where, I think what you're talking about is the stuff that you never got to see. I don't need to ask Frank about it. I think that's the one that you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, Shelly. That's the one where everyone was talking about the girl's murder scene and different things for the whole Lifetime thing, and they were sitting at a table and they were recording it all and stuff like that. And then, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Somebody had actually put out a video about that. I can't remember what channel it was on. I remember it was on a channel. And then I want to say that Julie wanted it taken down, if I'm not mistaken. Because it's a bunch of them from the Lifetime documentary that are basically all talking, and Julie's recording it or something, or it's being recorded. And then somebody put it up on their channel. It's like it was like a leak in a sense. Yeah, and it got taken down. Yeah, so that's like old news to me because I knew about that stuff like a long time ago. You guys might be hearing about it now, but I knew about it before, even it got put out there. So it's just, I guess for me that's old news, and so I'm not sure what part of that Frank wants to be talking about or what he's talking about with it, but yeah, I mean, it was a bunch of people that were part of that Lifetime documentary that were, yeah, I have heard it. Yeah, every time she says she's gonna go. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember everything it says in it because that was quite a while back that I had heard it. And so I don't know if like I said, I have no idea. You know, I guess just Frank's bringing it up, maybe perhaps because of the Lifetime documentary coming out. You know, most people, like most people in the, Delphi, at least in a certain group, already knew of that. Yeah. So, yeah. It's one of those things, right? It's a lot of people from the original people like Kelly Brown and Julie, I think Doug Rice and stuff like that are all basically just sitting around. And thing was is that it wasn't supposed to be recorded, right? It wasn't supposed to be recorded. So the fact that got leaked in a sense, either purposely or whatever, that was supposed to never have been recorded. I think that was breaking the rules with Lifetime or something like that. I don't know the whole ins and outs, and I could care less, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, it's really, they don't know their own answers either. Okay. Simple as that. Unless they've literally talked with the people that were at the crime scene, like Dave Erskine and whatever those other names that were there, unless they've ever talked with anyone that's, has that information, then nobody really knows. But, well, yeah, okay. Now, I love Frank, but I also know, how Frank says things too. So it might be really big to him. And, whereas to me it's not. But Frank, he always gets excited about certain stuff, and I don't know. I mean, if he's talking about it or playing it, then go watch it. I think he's on right now. So, you guys go over to his channel on there and watch him. I'm not sure what I'm going to do right now, actually. But anyways, sorry, we'll get going now. But yeah, so I'm not sure if it's ever going to get played again and somebody puts it back out there or not. It's basically a lot of it's talking about the girls and, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just going to say I don't know. Anyways, you guys, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, guys, and tonight's the members one at 9:30. Anyways, thanks, Miss Shelley. I don't watch him on there. I really don't watch hardly any creators. It's so rare. I watch a little bit, but usually when I'm watching YouTube, I'm more or less taking a break from, sometimes I'm taking just a break from the true crime and I'm just watching Nelk or Mr. Beast or something like that, something that's a little bit more lighthearted. And then other times, or sometimes I'm just watching maybe some specials that's out on News Nation or something like that. But as for creators, typically no one insulting to them, but I just don't, I don't like to have things planted in my ear, and stuff like that. But anyways, I just like to do my own thing in a lot of ways, to be honest with you, between me and Adam and stuff like that, we do just fine. But anyways, okay, guys, have a good night. Love you, Lacey. Bye, guys. And this is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.